Hello and welcome to the 2020-2021 school year. My name is Jennifer Steele and I serve Jeffco's educators, students, and families as the Director of Curriculum and Instruction, overseeing literacy and social studies. I also oversee the Teaching Onramp in the Jeffco Restart Roadmap project. And alongside Cecily Klein, I am the Tactic Co-Lead for High Expectations. It's an honor to welcome you all back to school. Today's time together is designed to help us zoom in on the teaching portion of the Jeffco Deeper Learning Model. Together we will explore some ways in which we, as educators, ensure that the unique strengths and goals of our students are incorporated in our teaching practices. Equitable access to high expectations is brought to life through the intentional strategies, structures, and routines that make up our teaching. Let's frame our time together in this guiding question. How might research-based strategies and structures support teacher understanding of each student's needs to ensure the success of all learners? I'm sure that you have some research-based strategies in mind, so put those in your back pocket and bring them along the journey with us. So the learning target for the Teach Onramp are stated as I can statements. I can articulate how equitable beliefs in teaching impact the learning of all students. I can think about intentional relevant strategies and learning opportunities for all students. And I can consider the use of high expectations for all students through the intentional use of Jeffco proficiency scales. You can focus on one of these targets or all three for our time together today. Take a few seconds to jot down your personal learning target or targets. As with all of our Jeffco educators, we will begin with equity in mind. I'm going to read this statement because it is our stance, our collective belief as a school district, as a school, a department, as an educator here in Jefferson County. We are dedicated to achieving these outcomes by transforming the student learning experiences enriched with authentic tasks and aligned assessments to validate content mastery. Permeating our work is a commitment to equity, where each student has access to high-quality learning and opportunities throughout Jeffco. This is our goal, our promise to the children of Jeffco, and it is with this lens that we uncover considerations for teaching as we begin this and every school year. All Jeffco educators have access to multiple supportive resources in the Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Equity Artifacts collection on our employee webpage. Some of the resources to highlight include many from our own Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion team. And those that we would like to lift up here are the Jeffco Public Schools Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion tenets. These are Jeffco's core beliefs about how we breathe life into equity in Jeffco for all kids. The culturally responsive reflection tool includes look-fors categorized by those for the classroom environment or the learning environment, the teacher, the content being taught, and the student. And another one we'd like to lift up right now is courageous conversations and safe classroom environments. I've personally been caught off guard by a student comment or a topic that was difficult to face or facilitate. This resource offers supports for teaching content that is potentially uncomfortable to facilitate, and for times when we might be caught off guard by an unsolicited topic on, let's say, a current event like a pandemic or acts of terror or racial inequities, and so on. Be sure to check those and many other resources out from our Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion team. So, author and educator Ron Rickert reminds us that we must continue to focus on transforming the student learning experience, whether we are teaching and learning remotely in a hybrid model or 100% face-to-face. To focus on the teach portion of the JDLM means to focus on student tasks. What are our learners actually doing and how are they doing it? This quote makes us think about group work as the structure of student collaboration can frequently impact teaching and learning in any classroom. But this quote begs us to consider the assigned learning tasks during every chunk of teaching and learning across the instructional day. Many considerations come to mind, and I will share just a few. Let's consider opportunities that evolve from group work in any learning environment, impact of the student-friendly proficiency scales in group work, and knowing what each student's actions mean and what they need based on those actions. When calibrated high expectations exist for all learners, learners meet and exceed those expectations. Proficiency scales are a tool for providing equitable expectations for every learner so that each child receives what they need to develop to their full academic, career, and social potential. Jeffco has been preparing for the launch phase of the 2020 Colorado Academic Standards with new standards in a variety of content areas. How teacher teams have worked to provide revised units of study and proficiency scales for every grade level and content is amazing. Because of the significant change, communication exists about the changes in the state standards as well as in Jeffco in the what, why, and how of proficiency scales, the video that is linked here. The teams have been working on developing and changes in content areas for the past 2 years. This video is available for you to access and is linked to your choice board. It might also be a good place to begin today. Proficiency scales help bring standards to life in the classroom. They clearly describe what students need to know and be able to do at varying levels of performance for each state standard. Proficiency scales support the findings from Dr. Marzano and Dr. Hattie, among others, in helping teachers identify and calibrate the learning targets and engaging students in standards and proficiency-based teaching and learning. One of our greatest hopes is that proficiency scales calibrates high academic expectations from teacher to teacher and from school to school in Jeffco. So, now that we know the why and the what of proficiency scales, let's deconstruct one to build our own understanding. In each unit, we have proficiency scales that help teachers to understand the prioritized and most critical end-of-the-year learning of that unit. This is an example of a 6th grade mathematics scale. Let's take a closer look. Our 3.0 scale items, highlighted in green, are stated from the language of the 2020 Colorado Academic Standards because they are the 2020 Colorado Academic Standards. This is the end-of-year target for all students. Our 4.0 score item is truly about extension of deeper learning beyond the score 3.0 skills and knowledge. At the score 4.0, students are innovating, creating, and using the 3.0 mastery level. And the score 4.0 is open to every child, not only our students with advanced learning plans. Our score 2.0 is where the progressions of learning live and are communicated to the teacher as stepping stones for deeper learning. These two elements include academic vocabulary and the skills and knowledge that students must master before they reach the level 3.0. Thinking about determining goals with students is a logical way to help by asking these questions. Where are you going? Where are you now? And what strategy or strategies will help you get to where you need to go? Now we're looking at a sample of a student-friendly proficiency scale. The way to read this scale is to think about the previous image that you saw of a teacher proficiency scale. The white 2.0 items on that scale that provide the learning progression for learning across the year also are the white items that are in this particular proficiency scale. So those are the 2.0s. The two green targets, those are the Colorado Academic Standards that students in 6th grade math are expected to meet or exceed by the end of the school year. So those greens are our targets. And that blue rectangle is at the 4.0 level and provides some description or understanding of what that might look like when students have exceeded that 3.0 level and they have moved into a more advanced and rigorous 4.0 level. So now that you've seen a student-friendly proficiency scale, we hope that you will see several advantages to using proficiency scales with students as teaching tools and student resources. As students learn and grow in Jeffco, we know that the Jeffco generation skills will play a part in what happens with student learning and all of our teaching in the year to come and in the years to come. So some of the advantages of teaching with high expectations through proficiency scales is really around student empowerment. Students are agents of their own learning. They can set goals, they can identify their next steps in their learning, they can monitor their own progress, and then report back to their peers, to their self, to their parents, to their teachers, exactly where they are on that proficiency scale, because this is within their control, and that is part of one of our goals as teachers, is to ensure that our students are empowered to be agents of their own learning. We're pretty excited about that. Well, let's consider some other impacts on our students through another lens: mastery learning. As educators, we make shifts in our teaching each day in response to the learning in our classrooms and schools. Some may even say that strong teaching is purposefully interconnected, aligned to clear learning goals, and inextricably linked to the minute-by-minute responses of students. And since we're on the topic of John Hattie and his research on specific effect sizes and of student and teacher actions, let's take a look at where teaching with proficiency scales might intersect. Consider students self-reporting their grades at a 1.33 and teacher clarity at a 0.75. Both of these actions are directly related to teaching and the experiences teachers craft for their students. Now, there is a word of caution about looking at meta-analysis like Hattie's. Many of these actions and strategies are interconnected and really shouldn't stand alone. They're always best planned for and executed in teaching when they work in concert with one another. As you teach with proficiency scales, your students and families, your colleagues must understand that the score 3.0 and 4.0 are for end of the year proficiency of the 2020 Colorado Academic Standards. Students will have the entire school year to learn and grow with this content. Student-friendly proficiency scales can help students and their families see the growth over time. The use of student-friendly proficiency scales can be used in both remote and face-to-face learning environments. The learning opportunities and tasks that we craft for students offer multiple opportunities for formative assessment. Curriculum, instruction, and assessment, or CIA as we like to call it, are so tightly interconnected that best practices take advantage of formatively assessing student knowledge and skill and can adjust their teaching strategies, their content, their resources, the language, structures, and so on in the moment or on the fly based on that real-time data while teaching is taking place. And formative assessment can take place whether you're learning remotely or in person. If you haven't had an opportunity to check out the Assess page on the Jeffco Deeper Learning Model, or you haven't had an opportunity to invest the Instructional Assessment page, we would highly recommend that you spend some time there. We always learn something new every time we visit. Finally, let's look at family and community engagement. Last spring, our students and families welcomed us into their homes as their guests, and they supported their children with access to and engagement with our teaching and their child's learning. We would be remiss in our focus on teaching if we didn't mention the role that families play, and because of that partnership, didn't provide some clarity and information for them, our families and community. The public Jeffco curriculum website is under revision to include information about proficiency scales and student-friendly proficiency scales, and that'll be shared alongside the public units of study. Jeffco's translations team has been working tirelessly on translating all of the curriculum documents to ensure access for Jeffco's teachers, our students, and our families. So, here we are at the crossroads of this journey. There are a few spots under construction and some one-lane highways up ahead. But set your compass toward your most successful year ever and move on to explore a sample mini lesson, investigate the resources that are parked on the Teaching Resource Choice Board, spend some time reviewing some examples of the Jeffco unit, some Jeffco unit and lesson plans, and travel off-road to develop your own unit plan with a focus on teaching with proficiency scales for greater student equity. All of our students can meet and exceed the score of 3.0 expectations on our proficiency scales, and they will have an entire year to get there. Thanks for all that you do for our students and families in Jeffco. Please don't hesitate to reach out to any member of Curriculum and Instruction. We are excited to begin this school year with you.